This weekend, Jurassic World Rebirth hits theaters, so it's finally time to go full spoilers into the movie. So today I'll be giving you guys my spoiler review of the new Jurassic World Rebirth movie, diving into every crazy set piece, new mutated dinosaur, and how the world of Jurassic Park has expanded, wrapping it up with an ending explained and where this franchise can really go from here. Before we get into it, I would love to hear all of your thoughts on Jurassic World Rebirth in the comments down below. Are you a fan of where this franchise is going? Mutated dinosaurs, extraction missions? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, but let's talk Rebirth. Right out of the gate, I really did like this film. It was my 10th most anticipated movie of 2025, and for the most part, it delivers in every single sense. I'm a fairly big fan of the Jurassic franchise. The first is obviously a classic, but I really like the way that 2015's Jurassic World continued the franchise with characters I found lovable, a new theme park concept, and just similar thrills. It really brought me back to the first film. I don't hate Fallen Kingdom as much as other people, and there were some genuinely similar ideas in this movie that I thought actually worked better this time around, which I'll get into later. But Dominion is absolute garbage, genuinely a stain on humanity in my opinion, one of the worst blockbusters of the decade. But that leads us to Jurassic World Rebirth, helmed by Gareth Edwards, director of Godzilla 2014, Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, and most recently The Creator. The movie was shot on film, stars Scarlett Johansson, Jonathan Bailey, Mahershala Ali. I have been beyond excited for this movie since it got announced. Even though I didn't really like Dominion, I trusted Gareth Edwards. Getting on to Rebirth, I kind of want to go point by point, starting with that opening, because of course this franchise is known for absolutely iconic openings, and I don't think this is one of the best openings of the entire franchise. The title card drop was absolutely awesome, but that red lighting, the mutated dinosaur introduction, all felt super Alien Romulus-esque, which I absolutely loved. I did think with that opening though, we would maybe spend a little bit more time directly on the island / in that lab with the mutated dinosaurs, but we don't really go back there till the final act, which I don't really mind, but I thought the idea of seeing and exploring these mutated dinosaurs rather than just seeing them in the wild, I thought that would be more of a central plot line, but I guess that wasn't really the case. I'm not mad at it because I really like the way that they explore the entire island, which we'll talk about in the second act discussion of this film. But overall, an absolutely awesome opening. I don't think it's on the level of Jurassic World 1 or Jurassic Park, but then we slowly get introduced to the entire squad going on this mission, building up to that first extraction, and I think the introduction of Scarlett Johansson's character Zora is really, really well done. We're introduced to Martin Krebs, who's a rich pharmaceutical billionaire that's trying to bring together a team led by Scarlett Johansson, Zora Bennett, to extract 3 samples from 3 different dinosaurs: a dinosaur in the sea, a dinosaur in the land, and a dinosaur in the air. I think this is such a great concept, lets you explore every single dinosaur and every single element, and that is just the best way to explore the Jurassic franchise, in my opinion, especially when you're this deep in and you're having a commentary on mutated dinosaurs only being a thing because the public is kind of having a waning interest in actual old dinosaurs. I think it's a good commentary on entertainment and stuff like that. And this movie does take place 5 years after Rebirth, where most of the dinosaurs are either dead, dying, or reside in islands along the equator, which is where this mutation island and extraction takes place. I think the best way to break down this movie is the set pieces, just because of that A and B storyline with Zora and the team, and then that family, and how those all kind of intertwine when it comes to these extractions to an extent. In total, there's 4 big set pieces. We have the 3 based on the extraction missions, and then the final escape, which I absolutely love. Starting with the sea dinosaur known as the Mosasaur, I think this is easily the coolest dinosaur of the entire movie. I think it's cooler than the Distortosaurus Rex. I think that's the name of it, the final big alien looking one. And the reason I think this dinosaur actually works the best out of all of them is that it's paired with the Spinosaurus back from Jurassic Park 3. And I just think overall the idea of these Spinosauruses circling their prey and them not really realizing, like the people on the boat don't really know what's about to happen and they feel like they've finished their mission. All of that works really well. Zora trying to shoot the Mosasaur, I think it's the coolest sea creature we've seen in the franchise, and it feels like there's real risk when she kind of like falls over the edge and is literally inches away from the Mosasaur's mouth. It was truly thrilling, and it really did feel like everyone in my theater was experiencing the same thing as me, because the score, the visuals, the shots that they chose to do of like having the camera stay under the boat while having the mosasaur's eye at the level of Zora's head. It was all phenomenal. After the sea dinosaur is where the family and the main team get separated. We obviously got introduced to the family in that first scene. That's where they got abandoned. And I really like the minor discussions that go on between Jonathan Bailey's character and that Jock character. I'm forgetting what the Jock character's name is. He's more just like an unimportant character that's there so he can get killed off and we can speedrun brutality. But there's also discussions between the family and obviously the daughter and then the rich billionaire guy and how she wants to call for help. He obviously can't have other people know about this mission. I think this whole idea of humanity versus nature, humans trying to live longer than they're actually meant to live, and how we don't really have a perception of time and how long these dinosaurs really existed. All of these different things are included in this one pre-sea dinosaur extraction. And I think it works really well and sets us up really well for them having to go into the dinosaur's habitat in the second extraction. But when it comes to the family and the extraction team, I don't mind the dual storyline just because I thought the family actually had phenomenal chemistry. And they do a pretty similar thing in every single Jurassic movie. The original with Alan and the kids, and then in Jurassic World, that trilogy with Grady and Hope together, and then the kids being separated. Here it just feels kind of shoehorned in because it's literally a random family with no experience at all whatsoever, and they're a story. The story that they are cutting back and forth to is an experienced extraction team, and somehow the family is still surviving all of these absolutely insane things. I'll talk about that T-Rex fight, which I think is one of the coolest moments of the entire movie, but it makes absolutely no sense how this family was still alive. Between the sea and the land extraction, it does feel just like a compilation of them exploring the island. And I don't think it's bad, but it's definitely where the film feels the most stagnant. One question I did want to bring up, and let me know if I'm just forgetting something in the comments down below, but this island has never been mentioned before at all whatsoever. I understand mutating dinosaurs is a new thing, and it's been 5 years since Dominion, but it makes no sense that something like this has just never been mentioned before. There's not really many scenes between these two extractions that stand out. I think overall the pacing does slow down here, but there's one scene where the boyfriend is taking a piss while the family is sleeping, and velociraptors almost come to try and kill him, but then the velociraptors get killed by a pterodactyl. That was genuinely horrifying stuff. And honestly, I think the only reason I was still entertained throughout the runtime between the two extractions was because of how much horror is infused to the pacing of this movie, and how, to an extent, it does just feel like a lot of slow and tension-based sequences that lead us to the next thing, rather than just them overall trying to go from place to place, place to place. It just feels like they're trying to survive in every minor scene. And that's what makes the, escaping the dinosaurs of it all more entertaining. Before getting to the land extraction is when I believe Dr. Henry Loomis, who's played by Jonathan Bailey, his character brings up to Zora for the first time, not giving the samples to this billionaire guy. And as they're traversing this island, they start to have discussions about how humans do in fact not rule the earth, and how even though they are the smartest creatures, it doesn't matter, because what it seems like is the smarter you are, the less you actually survive because of how many stupid innovations you try to make. I think Jonathan Bailey's character specifically says, we don't rule the earth, we just think we do. And not only do I think Jonathan Bailey was absolutely amazing in this movie, I think he delivers the best performance, but I think the thematic idea of humanity versus nature and humanity trying to help humanity with this always idea of living forever. And it feels like it's something that's always in this franchise, but I never get bored of it. And honestly, it's why I love this franchise. From trying to actually just build the theme park in the original movie to in the World trilogy, trying to understand the containment of these characters and then obviously bringing them into the real world, I think there is a huge suspension of disbelief just with this franchise overall. But when it comes to this idea of how insignificant human beings really are, I think this franchise always hits on that idea perfectly. And then we get to the extraction sample from the land dinosaur, the Titanosaurus, a play on the Brachiosaurus from the original film. This is the one scene where Jonathan Bailey's character starts to really feel the scale of dinosaurs. And this scene actually made me tear up a little bit. I don't know what it is about characters finally realizing just the scale and scope of creatures always works for me, and I think Jonathan Bailey's performance has a big deal to do with that. This is the easiest sample that they get, and I think it makes sense. It's really the emotional crux of this entire film, but I hate to say this, I think I might have watched an unfinished version of this movie, and if it's not an unfinished version, then that is an insane diss on the entire film. But this is really the only bad CGI scene of the entire film. It looks really good in the trailer, but when I saw it the other night, I thought it looked very horrible. Those dinosaurs did not look real at all whatsoever. Every single other dinosaur looks phenomenal. And I don't know if it was the big scale, if it was the background. I don't know what it was. When Jonathan Bailey was right next to the Titanosaurus, it looked really good. But obviously that was a practical leg. When you look at the big scale of it, they looked very fake. Other than the CGI in this one scene, I think this movie is absolutely gorgeous. It was shot on film in a widescreen format, and I think that really does aid the franchise. And generally speaking on Gareth Edwards, I think he does a phenomenal job here. Like I said at the top of this video, Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, Godzilla 2014, and most recently The Creator. This is an insane resume, and I think he was the perfect person to helm this franchise. From all the interviews, it did seem like he wanted to do more of an inspired Jurassic movie from the very original film, and there are moments that are inspired. We have obviously like an aisle scene at the end of the movie whenever they're at that like laboratory area in that little gift shop, and there also are just original horror inspired scenes like that T-Rex sequence with the raft inflating and the T-Rex disappearing and coming out from the grass. I think all of that works really well, and it does feel like he has his own spin to it. But again, I just think the format could have been tweaked a little bit more to make it actually feel like the scale of a Jurassic film. In between the land and air sequence is where we get arguably the most insane sequence of the entire film, and it's kind of what made me tired of this family storyline. To put it simply, a family of 4 people escape a T-Rex in the water, and the dad can't even walk properly. It's a phenomenal scene. It is in complete daylight, and it's filled with horror and fear, but the stakes just felt like no one could die. They do a little fake out with the little girl. I knew they weren't going to kill the little girl. They just wouldn't do that. It's a family-friendly movie. After that raft sequence, we get to the final sample extraction from the air dinosaur. I'm going to pronounce this name wrong, but I think it's pronounced the Quetzalcoatlus. Whoa, that was bad. Quetzalcoatlus. The Quetzalcoatlus, which is the largest flying reptile on record, and they had to get an extraction from the egg. I think the grappling to the egg heist to trying to escape, and one of the team members getting absolutely gobbled up. This is really the only time I felt stakes other than that very introductory sequence for the extraction team. And I really do like the back and forth. Like the extraction team is having obviously more risk during the extractions, and then the family is having more risk during these in between the extraction moments. But at the same time, I still really felt no risk for the family. The extraction team with the risk of death was sharing screen time with the family that had no risk of death. So it inherently made the stakes feel a lot less than they were. But I thought the tension in this sequence was absolutely amazing. Zora trying to hold on to the rope. This all leads them to obviously finally try and escape, getting to the helipad in the shutdown facility from the very opening of the film, and the final escape scene starts. All of the lights turn on, and it is literally just, what if Jurassic World was open at night? And I was just sitting in my seat like, bro, this is so fucking cool. I will say, I wish we had gotten to the lab / experienced these mutated lab dinosaurs a little bit sooner. I thought Jonathan Bailey's character actually going through and seeing all of the experiments and all of these older dinosaurs that we've seen in other films, I thought that was so interesting. And maybe that's just because I like that side of the story. And that is what felt like the priority in Jurassic World. Obviously here, this franchise has to evolve in a certain way. And so we'll talk more about the ending and the future of the franchise later. But I really like that little moment that him and Mahershala Ali's character had. So I definitely wanted to see more of that. Like I mentioned before, they do another aisle scene that's obviously inspired from the original film. They do a version of that in Fallen Kingdom as well. But it's another really well done horror-esque sequence. And there's also a reflection puddle shot from a dinosaur in the roof of the shop in the girl in the bottom, like like hiding behind the aisle. It is genuinely one of the coolest moments of the entire movie. I haven't seen a Jurassic movie do something like that in such a long time. Had me geeking. Gareth Edwards is a god. But there is one final revealing moment before the characters escape onto the boat, which made me definitively love this movie and just realize how badass it was. The doctor is looking into the clouds and he sees a helicopter light. But what comes through is the Distortus Rex, and it crushes the helicopter. The light goes out and it fully gets engulfed in flames. My jaw was on the floor. I was genuinely, all emotion was taken out of me. I felt like there was no escape for these characters. It worked so well. It made me fear the Distortus Rex for, honestly, the very underwhelming and minimal screen time that mutated dinosaur had compared to all the marketing and trailers. It felt like a real threat, and it felt like escape for at least the extraction team might not have been possible. And then finally, we get a peaking moment with Mahershala Ali's character, which felt like a long time coming, and for once I was happy it was a fake out death, because every time it happened to the family, I got pissed. I was like, one of these people need to die. But I did not want them to kill off Duncan, because he just didn't really have that much character development at all whatsoever. I wish he had a lot more time on screen. Love Mahershala Ali, but I'm glad he can make an impact on the story in the final moments. And that's where the movie wraps up. Our three main extraction team members in the family are safe, and the ending with the Jurassic movie, and when directed by Gareth Edwards pops up, I did feel a sense of joy. I did feel like we did go on an adventure. We got to witness these absolute behemoths of creatures, and I was happy with where we were at. So let's talk about where this story goes from here and kind of where I want to see it go from here. But before I do that, let me know where you think the Jurassic franchise should go after this film in the comments down below. You want these characters to return? Do you want a brand new story? Do you want them to reboot the franchise? Let me know in the comments, but let's get into it. As Jonathan Bailey's doctor character mentioned, him and Zora probably won't make any money off of this now that they're making the medicine open source. So maybe the doctor, Zora, and possibly Duncan could go on to become professional dinosaur extraction team members or something like that. Doesn't feel like they're setting it up for something else. But at the same time, I feel like the title Rebirth is a setup for a story in the franchise. It feels like the franchise is reborn. I thought that's kind of what we were going for here. But it just ends up being a one-off mission that doesn't really seem to have any direction. I don't think every single movie needs to connect to a bigger universe or blah, blah, blah. But we're in a Jurassic franchise. This is one of the longest running modern franchises to this date. And we don't know what's going to happen. We went from Flying Locusts to a banger movie to where I don't even know where we're going after this. Now, as a fan of this franchise, story-wise, I do have an idea of a direction they could go in, but there's just no way in hell Universal does this. I really love this movie, and for 99% of this review, I've been raving about Jurassic World Rebirth. But I do think this franchise needs a hard reset. Not really in a reboot way, but in a totally just like shifting the story and vibes way. As much as I can compliment the Spielberg-esque horror moments, bringing us back to the original film, this still all gets boiled down to being a family-friendly movie, and I get it. They have to make their $1 billion at the box office, but it's so frustrating when there's pieces of a great horror film here. And you look at something like Alien Romulus, which is able to take the best parts of the Alien franchise, modernize it, and create a new exploration of the franchise from that. Jurassic World Rebirth seems to be the very beginning of that, but there isn't really a way forward because they're so stuck in a family-friendly zone. The best parts of this movie are cut short because they can't keep going into the horror elements that this franchise really strived on in Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. Ideally, and I hate to say this as someone who generally doesn't like reboots, this franchise should just hit the reset button. But when you reset it, don't just remake the original movie. You just do a different adaptation of that original novel that is so based in horror. And you don't have to rate it R, but you can create it and formulate it in more something that relies on fully the tension of dinosaurs and not necessarily just trying to keep on evolving and making a cooler version of dinosaurs for this long-running franchise. At the end of the day, I really like Jurassic World Rebirth. I think there are a couple of flaws here and there, but this is the definition of a perfect summer blockbuster. All three of those set pieces I mentioned are amazing, and then it culminates in this insane final escape with a Distortus Rex, which is the coolest shit ever. Overall, I'm going to give Jurassic World Rebirth an 8 out of 10. If you've seen or want to check out this film, let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.